Thank you, Kathy Ann. Kathy Ann is in charge of warming our church up, so she did her part. We are working on the furnace, I promise. I promise we are. I know that some of you are going to be prepared to bring your log next week so that we can start a little garbage fire. Just in case, we are working on it. It's just a little cold, but I can't keep my coat on. There we go. Well, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Beto, and I am excited to share with you what God has for us today. And I do have some good news. I'm not regularly up here, so if you don't like your message, just come back next week and give it another shot. But we've been studying the different names of God, and God has a lot of different names. We've studied Jehovah Shalom, which means the Lord is peace. El Roi, God sees me. Jehovah Raah, which is God our healer. And today, we're going to be going over Jehovah Raah, which means the Lord is my shepherd. And it was so fun preparing to learn more about that name, the Lord's my shepherd, because I don't know if this happened to you, but to me, I kind of had this picture of a shepherd in my mind and what the profession looked like and how, you know what, it would be kind of fun to be a shepherd until I started studying what it actually is. And if you dive it even deeper, I don't know what happens to you if you close your eyes and you picture a shepherd, if you picture somebody with their staff and with their sheep on a meadow, with some trees and some flowers and like the cool of the breeze and those places do exist. There are sheep that have the privilege of enjoying those grassy meadows, but the sheep that we're going to be looking at today are the sheep that were in Judea. And now Judea is in Israel. And there was this video that was a little bit too long to play for you, but you can look it up. It's by the Daily Bread, and it's on the 23rd Psalm, which we'll be reading here in a little bit. But the terrain it's important to understand the terrain, because whenever we look at Scripture, it helps if we picture the place, the cultural context of when it was written and what was happening during that time. Because when we look at it through our lens today, it just looks a little bit different. My picture of a shepherd is completely different than the picture of the shepherd that I discovered, right? So the reality is that the shepherd that I discovered is somebody that would be willing to walk on this terrain that, I don't know if any of you have been to the Grand Canyon, but the terrain is similar. It's not like a forest with trees and cute little bunny rabbits. No, it's almost like a desert, and it's rocky. And these shepherds would start when they would go out and take their flock, they would have to select their routes, their paths, their trails to take the flock. And the places where they would walk are really steep with loose rock. It's really a dangerous place, but it's one of the coolest places to fully understand what it's like to have two options: follow your shepherd or die. Honestly. And if we're honest with ourselves, we have so many different options today, right? That it doesn't feel like those are our only two only options, right? Follow God or die. But the reality is that those are our only two options, even though it may feel like we have other options. So, I don't know if any of you are comfortable being compared to a sheep, but I'm comfortable comparing you to sheep. So, no, I'm comfortable comparing us to a sheep. But if we humble ourselves, we'll discover a few things that we can learn from sheep. King David spent his youth as a shepherd. He is familiar with the life of a shepherd. He has intimate knowledge of that relationship between a sheep and shepherd because he lived it. Right? He understands the dangers of the terrain. He understands that if a sheep were to leave the flock, it would be like signing his own death sentence, right? We said that, follow the shepherd or die. Where death is not a punishment for leaving the flock, it's just a consequence, right? But anyway, that's kind of the cultural context. That's kind of the terrain that he lived. This experiences that he lived when he has the 23rd Psalm in mind. So let's just go ahead and read the 23rd Psalm. And it says this: "The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures." Now, I just said that the terrain is like Arizona, right? So to read that he makes me lie down in green pastures is like, wait a minute, you just told us this, that it's like Arizona. Well, there are green pastures. They're seasonal. The video that I watched said that the grassy vegetation does come up, but it comes up like 2 months out of the year, and they have to bounce around different places to discover it. And there is fertile ground. There is good ground for things to grow, but that ground is reserved for grain, to grow grain. You don't want sheep where you're having your planters or where you're wanting to harvest, because they'll eat everything, right? But anyway, we'll keep going. Let's see. So he leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me about the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. If you're with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. A lot of you know Scott. Well, actually, he just came up and gave the announcement, so if you didn't know him, that was Scott. And Scott is a cool dude. I grew up without a father, and later in life, I discovered that God fathered me through different people. Whether older than me or younger than me. So I have definitely been fathered by Scott. And this example that came to mind is we both like to snowboard. He's done it far more than I have. He used to be an instructor, so he's pretty good. He's walking, so I'll move on real quick. Just kidding, talking about you, Scott. But as I was starting my journey in learning how to snowboard, he took me to a place called Timberline Lodge. And if you don't know anything about snowboarding, or if you don't know anything about Timberline Lodge has a ski lift, which is the ski lift is that fancy chair that takes you up the mountain, so you don't have to hike up the mountain. You just get to sit on this chair, get to the top, and enjoy the slopes down. Well, the problem with Timberline Lodge is that the bottom of those chairs are in the middle of the mountain, which means that if you don't stay in the rows that you're supposed to stay, you could keep going farther down and then find the highway, which people have done, and then you just have to hitchhike your way back out to the mountain. But you don't want to miss the bottom of the chair. The whole point is to enjoy the slope down, to get back on the chair, to get up and to do it again. Well, on this particular day, he turned to me and said, "Today we're going to push your limits." Okay, Scott, sounds good. Where are we going? Well, we got up on our chair, we got up, and he took me on this route that's called a tree line. So this is away from the main slope. The main slope is probably as wide as this room, maybe even wider. So you have a lot of, if you make a wrong turn and you start heading that direction, you can correct yourself and head out this direction again. And you have plenty of room to correct any errors that you may have, again, in a path as wide as this room, which is not where we were headed. I didn't know that, but we started heading down this tree line, which a tree line is, as the name implies, it's through the trees. And yeah, I've done many dumb things in my life. This is only one of them. But we started heading down this path that was pretty wide. It was uncomfortable because it was new terrain. I didn't exactly know what I was doing. But as we kept going, the path, the trail, kept getting narrower and narrower and narrower, and so narrow. If you're familiar with a snowboard, it kind of has this shape, right? That was the width of the trail. I kid you not. So beforehand, when I was explaining the relationship between sheep and shepherds, where I said it's either follow the shepherd or die, I was in that situation because it was either be good at snowboarding, do not make any errors, or die, which was a really good incentive, I have to say. We got to a point where we didn't know where we were on the mountain, and the only way to know where we were was to come to a stop, which was challenging by itself, but come to a spot, unstrap our bindings from our feet, and then hike up the side of, because as we were going, the sides of the mountain were getting higher and higher because we were just in deep. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't pass the chairlift, so we had to hike up to make sure to see where we were. Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. He also said, I am the good shepherd. If we're not willing to recognize our similarities with sheep, we won't recognize our need for a shepherd. We won't understand the dependency that we need to develop to enter into that relationship that God wants with us. So with that, today I want to give you 3 reasons why you and I need a shepherd. Reason number 1, we have limited vision. If you know anything about sheep, they have incredible vision, better than our vision. And what I mean by that, they do see in black and white, which is not what we do. We can see in color, that's awesome. But sheep have the ability to see up to 320 degrees. Okay, that basically means because of the positioning of where their eyes are and because their pupils are rectangular shaped, they're able to see everything except for like right behind them, right? So really, really close to like 360 degrees. It's only 320. There are some blind spots. Okay, so we can learn from sheep actually because they have better vision than us, yet they still sometimes stray. Our vision is not quite 320 degrees. It's actually even less than 180 because I can't even see my hand right now. But what's that? About 90 degrees. Thank you, Kevin. My life is complete with you. Yeah, I love you too, man. But we have limited vision. I had named my first point, we are blinded by what we can see. But that's exactly the look my wife gave me, like, what are you talking about? I don't know if this makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. What I mean so I ended up rewriting it and calling it that we have limited vision. But to me, I comprehend it better if I say really what I meant to say, which is that I am blinded by what I can see. Because everything I see becomes my reality. If I look at a broken bone, it's a broken bone. But I'm blinded to what God can do with a broken bone, which is completely restore it. I can't comprehend it. I don't know exactly how that happens. I don't know how that works. But I'm blinded to what the possibilities because of what I can see. We forget that our good shepherd, he has perfect vision. He can see into our past, into our future, into our hearts, into our soul, into our thoughts, everything. He's able to see everything. So that is one good reason to need a shepherd, because we can't see everything he can see. To give you an example, many of you know that I started going to school to earn my credentials to become a minister. What I could see was my academic history. Nobody had to come up and point it out to me. I know it well. I know it well. And I know that all through middle school and all through high school, I found ways to pass my tests. In Spanish, we call that pasar de panzazo, which I know that doesn't mean anything to you. You're saying, though, I don't understand you. Some of you might have to explain it to me, but yours is by the skin of your teeth. You get that one. I don't, okay? But barely passing, guess what? It's passing, right? I am not proud of the different methods that I used, that I was acquainted with, to make sure that on the day of those tests, I was able to successfully write down the answers. But when God calls me into ministry, right? Now that I have a relationship with him, now that I'm convicted by using the same methods that I used before, I am blinded by what I can see. I am blinded by my own stupidity. Which sounds like a harsh word, but that's what I thought of myself. That's what I could see, right? But that's not what God saw. Because God could see that I am a different person now. God sees the way that he has equipped me. God sees the way that all I have to do is show up. All I have to do is sign up, right? I went to orientation, and you guys, I came home crying. Because they laid out all of the expectations of all of the reading, of all of the assignments, thank God there's no final exam. Everything is papers. But even with writing papers, I'm like, Lord, how am I going to pull off a 12-page paper? You know my academic history. I was blinded by what I could see. The reality is that when God calls you to something, all he asks of you and I is 3 letters. A Y, an E, and an S. Yes. I call you to this? Yes. I will accept. I will accept the challenge because I know of who you are, and I know that if you've called me to something, you will equip me. Anyone here today with limited vision? Are any of you blinded by what's going on in your body, in your health, or in your job? Or your lack of one? God has a plan. We know that he's a God who sees. We know that he's a God that comes through on his promises. Instead of focusing on what we can see, let's declare that God, who sees everything, is already at work on everything that we cannot see. We trust him. We keep our eyes on him. We seek him. We talk to him. Another reason we need a shepherd? We're emotionally complex. Some more than others. But guys, suppressing your emotions doesn't mean you have any less. They still exist. There's still emotion. I was looking into sheep, right? Because in so many different places, we are referred to as a sheep. So then I wanted to learn more about sheep because I'm not regularly around sheep. I wanted to learn more, and I did learn that sheep are emotionally complex animals. They can feel afraid, angry, bored, sad, happy. I found a study that said that sheep can be optimistic and pessimistic. Does that sound like any of us? Or any humans? Not in this room, right? It's just other humans. But sheep have a personality. And if you're around sheep, you can start seeing their different personalities. And you start to identify, even though they might look similar, you might start identifying different sheep by their personality. But we can't trust our feelings. Some of you already heard this story, but I have a son who's 10 years old now, and when he was around 2, he was at Joe Dancer Park in that nice play structure, that nice metal play structure. It has 3 levels, and you get up to different levels by using this ladder. And it's a ladder that's upright, right? And then each floor has a floor that has holes in it so that debris and water and stuff can fall through. When my son was 2 years old, he fell off the ladder, and he landed on his face on that metal floor to such degree, in such force, that he had all of the little welts of all the holes that were imprinted on his face. I wasn't there. I was in Independence. I was working as a career coach at the time, in the town of Independence. And so I get a call from Shelly, and she's like, we're at the park. I just loaded all the kids in the car. We're headed to the hospital. Kobe fell. This is what happened. And that's all I needed to know. I grabbed my keys. I told my boss, I got to go. I'll explain later. And I got in my car, and I don't know if you've ever driven from Independence to McMinnville, but it should have taken me longer to arrive. I was being careful. I wasn't like passing people around corners or anything. But I was driving, I was being driven by my emotions. Okay? All I knew was that my son, who was 2, had just fallen. And I know that there was no power in me that I could come and touch him and that he would be healed. I know that that's something that God can do, but I don't have that power. So I just wanted to come and just be close to him. As I'm driving and I'm praying and I'm just like, Lord, if this is his time to go, can I just arrive? Can I see him? Can I talk to him? Can I say goodbye? And I'm lamenting this prayer, and then it just turns the corner, and it's like, no, I want to see him grow up. I want to see him be awkward. I want to see him, start coming home and start talking about girls. And we start talking about like all of these things that I want to see in his life, right? And in that time frame, all I could focus on was on my relationship with my son. I arrive at the hospital. My parents were coming from West Salem at the same time, and I got there before them. Yeah. I was praying, God, if I get pulled over, let it be a Christian cop so that he would understand. But anyway, I get to the hospital, and there wasn't what you see today. Right now, when you go in, there's a lot of personnel making sure that you're coming in and you have certain precautions, like you put on your mask and you sign the thing and you do the sanitizer. And there's certain stages that just were not present at that moment, okay? So I was able to just go right in, say my son's name, the door's open, I am rushing in, and I get stopped by this nurse. And I'm just like, lady, you better step aside. I am here to see my son. And I think she's done this before, because she was shorter than me too, and she just looked at me and she's like, sir, I need you to calm down. As soon as you've calmed, I will take you back to see your son. The things that I came across my head, I would be ashamed if those would be projected on the screen here. But I was being driven by my emotions. Sometimes we can get driven by anger or sadness or being I'm super competitive, you guys. In college, I had never played Duck, Duck, Goose, but in college, somebody introduced me to, I know, I'm not from here, okay? I had my first peanut butter and jelly sandwich in college, okay? Not from here. But somebody's like, let's play Duck, Duck, Goose, and I'm like, I'm game. They forgot to tell me that if somebody calls me a goose and I get up and run, if I get tagged, Doesn't mean I'm out of the game. It just means that now I become the person that goes around the circle. I did not know that part. I thought that if the person caught me, I was out of the game. And like I said, I'm competitive. So we can be driven by all kinds of different emotions, because I ended up diving to get back to my spot, and everybody's looking at me like, it's duck, duck, goose. Like, we're not taking away your birthday. Emotions are not a bad thing. We just got to keep them in check. And the third reason, which these are just 3 reasons, because I know you don't want to listen to me all day. There's so many good things to take out of the 23rd Psalm alone. These are just kind of an offshoot, humbling reminder that we are not above sheep. There's so many things that we can learn from them. But the third thing I want to talk to you today is that we're defenseless. Sheep are defenseless. The area of Judea has changed over time, but in the period that this was written, there was lions, there's bears, wolves, leopards, jackals. And the best defense that sheep have is to run away. I was surprised to hear that. I thought they like gave headbutts. But I guess they just do that against around each other to establish a pecking order. But we know that these animals are present. When David was convincing Saul to fight Goliath, because again, remember that David was a shepherd boy. He leaves his flock to go to his brothers to see what's going on. That's where he encounters Goliath challenging for the duel, and he's like, I'll take him. And he's convincing Saul, saying, hey, I've killed a lion. I've rescued my sheep from bears. Who is this guy? Right? You can read more about that in 1 Samuel 17. Personally, I wouldn't want to go hand to hand with any of these animals. A lion, a bear. I mean, not as long as maybe I was with Nate. Maybe I'll take on a lion if Nate's with me. But maybe then again, he's also a faster runner, so maybe that's not a good idea. But we've established this. I didn't grow up around here. I grew up in Mexico, and my family has, to this day, they have this ranch outside of Mexico City. And when I was growing up, the neighboring ranch raised exotic animals for circuses and for show and things of that nature. So I grew up in this quiet ranch-like environment, right, where you don't hear the cars, you don't hear the city noise, but what you do hear are lions roaring at night. Let me tell you, because it's like, oh, good night, honey, don't let the big mouse bite. And then they turn off the lights, and then they walk away, and then you start hearing the roars of the lion, and it's like, and you know that they're the neighbors, and it's not that far away. And because we're neighbors, the people that ran the operation were friends with the family, so we got to go and we got to visit, and we got to see the monkeys and like all kinds of different animals and the lions. I'm sorry if you're disgusted by this. I am impressed by this, but feeding time, I remember it's imprinted in my head, seeing workers bringing wheelbarrows. You don't want me to say it? I know. Okay, I'll just tell you guys. Like horse heads. Like 10 to 15 in a wheelbarrow. Anyway. Hey, hello again. Again, I would not want to face a lion, especially a hungry lion. Okay, I know yeah. But sheep are defenseless, just as we are defenseless. And we may think that we're not defenseless, right? Because we might go to the gym, we might work out, we might feel like we're tough. The reality, though, is that our enemy prowls around like a lion. right? We have an enemy that's after our soul, and he's here to steal, kill, and destroy. And we are completely defenseless against him. But we have our good shepherd, right? And not only is he our good shepherd, he's also equipped us to withstand the attacks of the enemy. He's given us his armor, the armor of God, which you can read more about that in Ephesians. But the first piece of the armor is the belt of truth. What is the truth? The truth is that, yes, we may encounter the enemy. Yes, he may roar like a lion. Yes, he may be more powerful that we could take on. But the truth is, when we have the truth is that Jesus is our protector. He is our shepherd. And he will not leave us or forsake us. And when those attacks of the enemy come, he is there to protect us. I don't want to minimize anything that you might be going through. Because it's really easy to say, I'm sorry about your situation, God will take care of it. When I was so, I don't know if maybe hopeless is the right word, but when I was picturing going back to school and I was afraid and I had no hope, and people around me would be like, you got it. I was like, stop telling me you got it. Get in here. Fight this thing with me. The thing is, we don't got it. God's got it. Whatever you're going through, stop fighting it yourself. Stop fighting it by yourself. The reason that we are put into community... Okay. I took this out of my notes. But how many of you like snow? I know that this is almost like asking who likes the beavers, who likes the ducks. Who likes snow? It's like, oh, the same type of controversy. Because some like it, some don't. Something that's really cool to me about snow is what happens when you build a snowman. You pack this tiny little ball, and you roll it around, and you keep packing it, and it grows, 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 and you build this snowman, and then the sun comes out, and all of the other snow melts away. The snow that is packed together is less affected by the heat because it's protected by each other. Does that make sense? Sheep are the same way. They're protected when they're in the flock. Right? They're protected in the flock. So let's remember that we have limited vision. Let's remember that sometimes we can be blinded by our emotions. But let's also remember who our shepherd is. Let's also remember who's our protector. Remember that he's for us. And most importantly, remember that he lays his life down for us. So worship team, would you come up? As we pray, Jesus, we don't got it. We know that you do. And we know that when you call this your sheep, that was not a derogatory term. That was just a picture of the relationship that you crave with us. In fact, if anybody's offended with being compared to a sheep, Father, you became a lamb. You became that spotless, that perfect sacrifice for the atonement of our sin. We thank you for the way that you guide us through our lives. We thank you that you don't give up. We thank you that no matter how messed up our situation is or how messed up we've put ourselves in situations, whether it's by our control or by external controls. We're thankful, Father, that you leave your place of safety to encounter us in our place of danger, to bring us back into safety. Thank you for laying down your life for us. We pray, God, that you would instill in our hearts your peace, your guidance, and our trust in you. Draw us closer as we worship. And we pray this in your name. Amen.
You are the source